For today's session, there's a few things that I'm hoping that you all will walk away with after this module. OSCCR's approach to student conduct, how the student promise is infused into the student conduct process, understanding how the COVID-19 pandemic impacts the community standards and the student experience right now, and how OSCCR and residence life work together. OSCCR promotes student success and development through upholding policies and procedures that ensure a safe, respectful, and inclusive environment in which students can thrive. We strive to strengthen our community by supporting students in cultivating accountability, engaging in open dialogue to repair harm, and practicing ethical decision making. So, what are the goals of the student conduct process? For all students who come through the student conduct process, we are ensuring that we try to make sure that three things happen. Those three things are to foster accountability, to prevent reoccurrence, and then finally to repair harm. For those of you familiar with restorative justice practices, our core principles are based on repairing harm, accepting responsibilities, and wanting to make things better. Our office embraces these principles and very strongly believes in them. For the purposes of today and for understanding our approach, you have to keep in mind the student promise. The student promise is the way in which we show up for our students. We use this experience within the student conduct process to help students better care for themselves, others, and the community. Next, it's going to be important that you all understand the community standards, or quote unquote, the rules of the institution. The Office of Student Conduct and Conflict Resolution is responsible for the maintenance and enforcement of the community standards. This authority is delegated by the Dean of Students and Vice President of Student Development on behalf of the Board of Trustees and is intended to foster and maintain a safe, healthy academic environment for the university community. Some other things that are really important that you all understand as far as the community standards are our jurisdiction. And really what that means is that any student from the time that they are enrolled here at Loyola until the time they are no longer a student with us is governed by these rules. That means if a student has an alleged violation of the community standards on campus or off campus, they are still treated the same through our student conduct process. Also, anywhere you go on the planet, you also have to follow the rules or the community standards. A couple of sections that we'll talk a little bit more in detail about in you all's training session are Section 201, which is the generally prohibited or regulated conduct, and Section 202 for you all, which will be of the most importance because you work in the residence halls, will be the residence hall regulations. And again, we'll go a little bit more into detail about some of the common policy violations when we meet with you all for your session. Next up, it's going to be important that you all understand that when you all witness a potential violation to the community standards, we're going to need your help in documenting those situations. And that leads us into what it means to document incidents or create incident reports. We're going to talk a little bit about that in your session, but you also have a training module that you can view that'll give you step-by-step on how to document and the things that you need to be putting in your incident reports. The life cycle of an incident report. When you witness something, you're going to have to document it. That means you're going to have to give the who, what, when, where, and how of the situation. Then that report is reviewed by staff. We then determine if there's any allegations of policy violations, and we may or may not send a letter to schedule a hearing or a meeting with the student. Students meet with staff, responsibility is determined, and appropriate sanctioning is assigned. Staff then closes the IR and then follow-ups for anything that may be needed after that. So who will students meet with after they are documented in an incident report? That's a great question. They'll meet with conduct administrators. Conduct administrators can be any professional staff member on the OSCCR team in this particular case, or your resident directors who also serve as conduct administrators. Furthermore, we have an OSCCR Student Conduct Board, which serves as a conduct administrator as well. I'm going to go a little bit more into detail about what those particular meetings will look like and what the differences will be in between the Conduct Board and the professional staff student conduct administrators. So, what can students expect when they meet with conduct administrators? Administrative hearings, they are just conversations. Whenever a student meets with us or is documented in an incident report, they're likely going to ask you, what can I expect? Well, just let them know. They can expect to have a conversation. The very first part of that conversation are introductions. We like to try our best to get to know the student and understand who they are, what their experience looks like right now. It helps us have a more seamless conversation and build some rapport. In the very beginning, we're going to discuss all of their student rights with them, the things that they need to know for coming through the student conduct process. Right after that, we're going to talk about the incident report or the incident. We're going to review the report together, and each student gets a chance to share what happened from their perspective. We're going to reflect on the student promise. Have the student think about who was truly impacted by what they may have done. Was there an impact to self? Was there impact to others? And ultimately, what's the grander impact on the Loyola community? Our students will have to reflect on that in a moment. And after that, we wrap up by discussing what comes next with the student. If there's a potential finding of responsibility, we discuss what maybe the outcome packages for that need to look like. Our goal is to always educate and discipline simultaneously. And so any sanction package that we give, those are our two goals. When students meet with the Student Conduct Board, it looks a little bit different, but all the premise is the same. They're following all the same procedure that we would do in a one-on-one hearing. The only difference is that there's a larger group of people and there's a larger group of student leaders that will be talking with their peers. We have 10 student leaders, 5 on each board. These cases usually resolve incidents resulting in a substantial impact on the university community and tend to have a larger number of students, usually 5 or more. And so when we have incidents that have large groups of students, usually our community board will hear those particular cases. One of the ways in which Loyola has gone above and beyond to exhibit care for our students and to have them think about what it means to exhibit care for each other is by implementing the Good Samaritan policy. At Loyola University Chicago, student safety is paramount. In incidents of crisis or medical emergency, Loyola students are expected to care for themselves and for others in the Loyola community by getting help from appropriate officials, even when violations of the community standards have occurred. Because the university understands that fear of disciplinary actions may deter requests for emergency assistance, the Good Samaritan policy was created to alleviate such concerns and reduce hesitation by Loyola students to seek help. To uphold this policy, 3 steps are required of you. First, get help by entering 911, calling campus safety or residence life, such as your RA. Next, remain with the individual needing assistance at all times. And finally, it's important that you follow up with university officials like the Office of Student Conduct and Conflict Resolution after the incident and cooperate with any university investigation. That was just another example of one of the things that students can take advantage of here at the institution and through the Office of Student Conduct and Conflict Resolution. I know that that was a high-level overview of some of our policies and procedures and the way in which we go about student conduct, but let us know if you have any further questions during your resident assistant training session. Thank you and have a great day.